This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, June 26th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Julian Assange returning home.
We are free press activists.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Heavy rain and flooding in Minnesota causing a partial failure of the Rapidan Dam.
We have about 18 inches of rain.
I'm Julie Walker.
4 states hold primaries and a squad member's job on the line. We'll have details.
A National Transportation Safety Board report details what happened during last year's disastrous Norfolk Southern train derailment. I'm Ed Donahue.
On Wall Street, stocks were mixed yesterday, but Nvidia rebounded. Investors are waiting now for results from Micron today. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
President Biden and Donald Trump are preparing for a high-stakes 90-minute live debate on CNN.
We're going to have the largest deportation.
Jennifer King, Washington.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Wikileaks founder Julian Assange is planning to reunite with his family in Australia after pleading guilty to breaking U.S. espionage law. Correspondent Clayton Neville has details.
Julian Assange pleading guilty to 1 felony count of illegally obtaining classified information. He spent the past 5 years in Belmarsh. That's one of the UK's high-security prisons. He was arrested in 2019 after avoiding extradition for years in Ecuador's embassy in London and trying to avoid U.S. prosecution while there. Assange's wife, who met him in 2011 as his lawyer, now pushing back against the U.S. decision to charge Assange.
I think that the correct course of action from the U.S. government should have been to drop the case entirely. We will be seeking a pardon, obviously.
Stella Assange spoke with Reuters.
The fact that there is a guilty plea under the Espionage Act in relation to obtaining and disclosing national defense information is obviously a very serious concern for journalists and national security journalists in general.
Julian Assange spoke with 60 Minutes back in 2011.
We're a particular type of activist. In the U.S. context, there seems to be communist activists or something. So it's
Agitator. Somebody who's more interested in...
It's a dirty word in the U.S.
It's a dirty word. And people think that what you're trying to do is to sabotage the workings of government.
No, we're not that type of activists. We are free press activists. It's not about saving the whales.
The reason why, he said,
that is the raw ingredients that is needed to make a just and civil society. And without that, you're just sailing in the dark.
Assange appearing in federal court in the Northern Mariana Islands. That's a remote territory north of Guam to officially enter his plea, then off to Australia to meet his family, to include his 2 young sons. I'm Clayton Neville.
Dam failure in Minnesota continues to cause evacuations, and more than a foot of rain and unprecedented flooding has submerged towns in Iowa and South Dakota. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Heavy rain and flooding in Minnesota causing a partial failure of the Rapidan Dam, allowing the river to flow around it. Other parts of the state flooded as well. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says resources are being deployed.
Since Friday, we have shifted now to southern Minnesota. These are floods that have been going on, or incidents, if you will, for the last several weeks. We have about 18 inches of rain over the last couple of weeks. What's happened is we've inundated the ground. There's nowhere for it to go.
National Weather Service hydrologist Brian Connolly in Minnesota says they're getting a reprieve from the rain.
I don't think there's any expectation that the dam itself is going to fail. And we're not expecting any more rain until this coming weekend. There was a breach around the dam. So the water's flowing around the dam right now. The latest that we know is that the dam is still intact, and the dam is in good shape. It's just this erosion around the dam that has allowed kind of the water to bypass the dam uncontrolled.
The severe weather killed at least 2 people. Iowa officials say a man died trying to drive around a barricade over the weekend in Spencer.
A lot of people are getting tired in the state, and We pulled resources from all across the state to come and help. We've got a lot of law enforcement that came from Sioux Falls and from the western part of the state to come and help. And a lot of the emergency responders worked around the clock the last few days to take care of folks.
A steel train bridge connecting South Dakota with Iowa collapses into the Big Sioux River. Photos show a large span of it underwater. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem says days of heavy rain and swollen rivers forcing evacuations, devastating homes, roadways, and that bridge.
It was a big loss for us that'll impact us for many, many months to come.
Iowa's governor and Noem both declaring disasters for affected areas. I'm Julie Walker.
When we return, National Transportation Board on that Ohio train derailment. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. As we wind down the month of June and head into July, we've got some areas of severe thunderstorms today. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton is in with the forecast.
As a cold front presses toward the east coast through the day and into tonight, warm, moist air flowing to the north and east ahead of the front will prime the atmosphere for supporting the development of powerful thunderstorms from Oklahoma into parts of Alabama, across the Tennessee and Ohio River valleys, and through southern New York and western Connecticut. These storms bring the risk for damaging wind gusts, flash flooding within intense downpours, hail, and even a few tornadoes, but drier conditions follow this front on Thursday from the Great Lakes across to the northeast. Otherwise, look for more typical spotty afternoon thunderstorms developing in the southeast, along the Gulf Coast and across much of Florida, as much of Georgia and even the Carolinas likely can stay dry. We can expect another hot day, though, with temperatures not far from the century mark from central Virginia through a good portion of Georgia, as well as from the southern plains into eastern New Mexico. Speaking of the west, the second area where organized severe thunderstorms may occur is in parts of the high plains, where disturbance rippling through the atmosphere will be able to produce storms with large hail and strong winds this afternoon and through the night from east central Colorado into western Nebraska and southeastern Wyoming. This signals a more active period for the west, with locally severe thunderstorms through Thursday that may bring localized flash flooding while presenting a lightning risk to campers and hikers from the Four Corners region into Nevada and southeastern Idaho. Otherwise, the west coast, northern plains, and western Great Lakes region can expect a mainly dry day today, except for showers in the Pacific Northwest. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
This is America in the Morning. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. 4 states held primaries Tuesday in New York. Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won her primary challenge by a landslide. But vocal Israel critic Jamaal Bowman became the first member of the so-called squad to lose an election, as the progressive fell to moderate Democrat George Latimer in one of the most watched primaries of the 2024 election year. Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who represents the state's 3rd district but moved to the 4th, defeated 5 other Republicans for that party's nomination and a seat held by Representative Ken Buck, who announced he would not run for re-election. In a close race, Sherry Biggs won the Republican primary runoff by less than 2% in South Carolina's 3rd district. And in Utah, John Curtis trounced Trump-endorsed candidate Trent Staggs to take the Republican Party line for the U.S. Senate seat held by the retiring Mitt Romney. Governor Spencer Cox also held off a challenge in his primary. The National Transportation Safety Board releases results from an investigation into an Ohio train derailment. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
On behalf of the entire agency, I want to recognize the significant impact that this derailment has had on the community in East Palestine, Ohio, in Darlington, Pennsylvania, and all the surrounding areas throughout the state of Ohio, throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
A National Transportation Safety Board report details what happened during last year's disastrous Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Video shows a wheel bearing was on fire for more than 20 miles before the derailment. It was never caught by trackside detectors. Michael Graham is a board member.
We are here to ensure that the lessons learned from this derailment will lead to meaningful change so no other community has to relive the challenges faced by the people of East Palestine.
The NTSB also says Norfolk Southern and contractors botched a decision 3 days later to blow open 5 tank cars and burn the vinyl chloride inside. East Palestine resident Jamie Wallace says it was hard to hear.
It brings out all these emotions in you again. It's just, I feel rage. Just like I would, if any citizen poisoned my child.
Norfolk Southern again defended its release decision. I'm Ed Donahue.
Housing affordability at an all-time low. More on that and the Wednesday Business Report when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Wednesday Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks yesterday. Nvidia shares rebounded. The S&P 500 index and the Nasdaq each snapped 3-session losing streaks. Rivian shares popped 30% after Volkswagen took $1 billion stake in the electric car maker. Housing affordability has hit a record low in the U.S. as home prices hit fresh record highs for the biggest 20 markets in the country.
Home prices set another record high in April. That, according to the latest S&P Case-Shiller Index, up 6.3% nationally from April of last year. This just feeds into what is now one of the least affordable housing markets in U.S. history. The housing cost burden has hit a record high. That, according to a new report from Harvard's Joint Center for Housing. Home prices are now 47% higher than they were in early 2020, with the median sale price now 5 times the median household income.
CNBC's Diana Olick. McDonald's with that $5 meal deal now on menus for 1 month only.
McDonald's $5 value meal.
About time. And franchisees who didn't realize that if you sell more at a lower price, you can actually make it up, providing you sell more.
Having lost a lot of business to casual and fast casual.
CNBC's Carl Quintanilla with CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer. Here's a franchise owner from California.
We've certainly seen fewer customers coming to restaurants in general, and those that do come into the restaurants are spending less money than they were spending before.
McDonald's franchise owner Scott Roderick on CNBC. Walmart announced a Walmart Deals sale next month, 4 days, July 8th through the 11th, to counter the Amazon Prime Day sale, July 16th and 17th this year.
Well, today the focus is Wisconsin. I would look for more of these sort of regional influxes of cash from the White House throughout the campaign season.
Wisconsin state officials have teamed up with the Biden White House in a business and job creation pivot.
What former President Trump described as the eighth wonder of the world, a $10 billion manufacturing and technology mecca from Taiwanese electronics company Foxconn. That, as we all know now, did not happen. Now in Wisconsin, they have a different plan.
Wisconsin is home to one of 31 so-called tech hubs under the CHIPS and Science Act, which is about far more than semiconductors.
We're projecting 30,000 jobs within 10 years.
Wisconsin's focus is on biohealth, boosting companies like North Star Medical Radioisotopes in Beloit, which is literally trying to cure cancer.
CNBC's Scott Cohen. He'll have the annual top states for business list for 2024 over the coming weeks on CNBC. Now, on today's watch list, earnings are coming from Micron. That's a big one. General Mills, Levi's, and BlackBerry. We get newly built home sales numbers for May, and the NBA draft is on tonight in New York.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, popular pickup, whopping recall after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. There's an urgent auto recall, this time for one of the most popular selling vehicles in the nation. Rita Foley has details.
Ford is recalling hundreds of thousands of pickup trucks because the transmissions can unexpectedly downshift to first gear, no matter how fast the trucks are going. The downshifting can cause drivers to lose control of the truck. The recall covers some F-150 pickups from the 2014 model year. Ford says it expects fewer than 1% of the recalled vehicles to have the problem. Dealers will update the powertrain control software at no cost to owners. If your vehicle is being recalled, you'll be notified by letter in early July. Ford says it knows of 130 complaints to the government. 2 of the complainants reported injuries. Ford's F-Series pickups are the top-selling vehicles in this country. I'm Rita Foley.
An unusual format in Atlanta tomorrow as President Biden and former President Trump square off in their televised debate. A lot at stake for both candidates. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
The presidential candidates debate on June 27th, the first of 2, will be live at a CNN studio with no audience. A coin flip determined that Biden would stand at the podium to the viewer's right, while Trump would deliver the final closing statement. Microphones will be muted except when it's the candidate's turn to speak. Each will be given a pen, a pad of paper, and a bottle of water, but no pre-written notes or props will be allowed on stage. The debate sets many precedents coming so early in the election season, with widespread questions about the candidate's readiness due to their age, and one participant 2 weeks from sentencing on his felony conviction. Any stumbles will be hard to erase, with the next debate not coming until September. Jennifer King, Washington.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, June 26th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, Julian Assange appears in an American court. Haya Panjwani reports.
The mayor of Oakland speaking out amid allegations of corruption. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. Surgeon General declares gun violence a public health crisis.
We don't have to live like this.
I'm Linda Kenyon in Washington.
There's news about former President Trump's court-imposed gag order.
Thousands of protesters stormed Kenya's parliament to protest tax proposals. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The U.S. bans Russia's Kaspersky Labs antivirus software. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Celine Dion opens up about stiff person syndrome in her new documentary. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. We're back on America in the Morning. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton, beginning in the west, has a look at the Wednesday national forecast.
A more active pattern continues for parts of the west today and through at least Thursday as a storm tracks across parts of the region, leading to localized severe thunderstorms that can produce flash flooding, along with the risk for lightning and large hail for anyone outdoors, such as hikers and campers. Today's severe risk extends from southeastern Wyoming into western Nebraska, then southward into far western Kansas and much of eastern Colorado, including the Denver and Cheyenne, Wyoming areas. However, a general thunderstorm risk stretches across the Four Corners area, through the northern Rockies, and into much of Montana today and tomorrow. The second area where severe thunderstorms may build is along and ahead of a cold front blasting into hot and humid air, extending from interior portions of the South through the mid-Atlantic states and into far western New England. In these areas, storms may bring hail, strong winds, and perhaps some tornadoes into tonight. Farther ahead of this feature, hot conditions continue for the South, where highs near 100 degrees can be expected from the Carolinas into Georgia, with highs in the triple digits most likely from Oklahoma into West and North Texas through the day. Typical summertime afternoon thunderstorms build from areas near the Gulf Coast through much of Florida. For the western Great Lakes region and the northern plains, we can expect a mostly dry day behind the cold front, with lowering humidity making for a nicer day overall. Showers extend through the Pacific Northwest, mainly close to the Washington and Oregon coastline, with drier conditions south of there through California. In Chicago, a stray morning thunderstorm leads to breezy conditions, with clouds and sunshine and a high of 78. Watch for a spotty afternoon thundershower in Salt Lake City. Otherwise, it's going to be a warm day with a high of 95. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Wikileaks founder Julian Assange has been sentenced to time already served in Britain as part of a plea deal with the U.S. Justice Department that secures his freedom. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports his next stop his home, Australia, where that nation's prime minister is ready to welcome his arrival.
Julian, how are you feeling? Mr. Assange, any comments you
Wikileaks founder Julian Assange has pleaded guilty to a single felony charge for publishing U.S. military secrets in a deal with Justice Department prosecutors that secures his freedom and concludes a drawn-out legal saga that raised divisive questions about press freedom and national security.
The government is certainly aware that Australian citizen Mr. Julian Assange has legal proceedings scheduled in the United States. While this is a welcome development, we recognise that these proceedings are crucial and they're delicate. Given these proceedings are ongoing, it isn't appropriate to provide further detailed comment.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese told Parliament on Tuesday they're eager for Assange to return.
I've been very clear as both the Labor leader in opposition, but also as Prime Minister, that regardless of the views that people have about Mr. Assange's activities, the case has dragged on for too long. There's nothing to be gained by his continued incarceration, and we want him brought home to Australia.
The WikiLeaks founder is set to admit to a felony for publishing U.S. military secrets under a deal that spares him prison time in America after spending years in jail in the United Kingdom while fighting extradition to America. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
In California, the mayor of Oakland is responding to continued backlash over a recent FBI raid at her home. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports Mayor Sheng Tao has questions of her own for the FBI.
In her first press conference since the FBI raid on her Oakland home, Mayor Sheng Tao was adamant.
I have done nothing wrong.
The FBI hasn't said why it raided the home.
I can tell you with confidence that this investigation is not about me. I have not been charged with a crime, and I am confident that I will not be charged with a crime because I am innocent.
The day of the raid at the mayor's home, federal agents also served warrants at two other homes owned by the Duong family and at offices shared by the Vietnamese American Business Association and California Waste Solutions, which manages the city's curbside recycling program. That family very much tied into Oakland politics, clearly prompting questions by the feds, and Mayor Tao with questions of her own.
I want to know more about the handful of billionaires from San Francisco and from Piedmont who are hell-bent on running me out of office. I want to know why, the day following the qualification of a recall election, funded by some of the richest people in the Bay Area, seemed like the right day to execute a warrant.
The mayor seemingly suggesting political motivation.
I want to know how the TV cameras knew to show up on my sleepy residential street so early in the morning to capture footage of the raid. And I want to know why Fox News and Breitbart were so prepared to fan the flames and to tell a story that they want to tell, to bend the facts to shape a narrative.
This is groups like the Oakland NAACP are calling on the mayor to resign. There's also a petition to get her out of office that's making the rounds. A former chief of staff for the mayor now accusing her of being involved in a pay-to-play scheme. She's urging her former boss to step down. I'm Clayton Neville.
Many are wondering if partisan politics isn't at least partly to blame for a new U.S. Surgeon General warning about guns in America. Correspondent Linda Kenyon has the story from Washington.
This is a public health crisis in America.
Surgeon General Vivek Murthy speaking about his advisory on firearms violence.
It is now time for us to take this issue out of the realm of politics and put it into the realm of public health, the way we did with smoking more than half a century ago.
More than 48,000 Americans died from gun injuries in 2022. Just this past weekend alone, mass shootings left dozens of people dead or wounded. In an interview on CBS Mornings, Dr. Murthy said young people are especially at risk.
And my hope is that if we understand this as a kids issue, that we will raise it on the priority list, that we will see it not as a political issue, but as a public health issue that should concern all of us.
Murthy added, we don't have to live like this.
Right now, 6 in 10 Americans are worried about losing a loved one to gun violence. Half of our kids are worried about a shooting in their school. And gun violence has now become the leading cause of death among kids and teens.
So what can be done about it?
And I lay out a series of strategies in this advisory that can help us reduce the profound toll of gun violence.
For example,
community violence intervention programs that we can invest in. There are safe storage education programs that we can expand. There are firearm risk reduction strategies like background checks and other measures that would seek to create time and space between firearms and individuals who would seek to harm themselves and others.
But he says none of these strategies can be implemented nationwide unless Congress decides to act. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Tomorrow's debate, food warning, and cybersecurity software company banned. Those stories, part of what we're covering next. America in the Morning's back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are, of course, preparing for tomorrow night's televised debate. And just ahead of that anticipated event, the former president's gag order in his hush money case is altered. Correspondent Julie Walker is in with that.
A New York judge modifies Donald Trump's gag order, freeing the former president to comment publicly about witnesses and jurors in the hush money criminal trial that led to his felony conviction, but keeping others connected to the former president's case off limits, at least until he's sentenced July 11th for falsifying business records to cover up a potential sex scandal. Judge Juan Merchan's Tuesday ruling, just days before Trump's debate Thursday with President Biden, clears the presumptive Republican nominee to again go on the attack. Trump has said the gag order prevents him from defending himself. His lawyers had urged Merchan to lift the gag order completely. Julie Walker, New York.
Taxes, sure to be a topic in the first presidential debate of 2024, but in Kenya, the nation's parliament was set on fire and at least 5 people are dead after riots erupted over proposed new taxes. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
In the most direct assault on the Kenyan government in decades, thousands of protesters stormed Kenya's parliament to protest tax proposals, burning part of the building, sending lawmakers fleeing, and drawing fire from police as clashes spread to other cities as well. President William Ruto called the events treasonous and vowed to quash the unrest. Kenya's defense minister says the military has been deployed to support police in what they are calling a security emergency. Journalists saw at least 3 bodies outside the complex where police had opened fire. Medical workers reported at least 5 people killed. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The head of the Dallas, Texas domestic violence shelter is praising the recent Supreme Court decision that keeps guns out of the hands of accused abusers. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
Tiffany Tate McDaniel runs the Family Place, a safe haven for those victimized by domestic abuse.
This ruling is monumental.
The Supreme Court justices, on an 8-1 decision, rejected a lower court ruling that had struck down the ban on someone named in a restraining order having a gun.
Just the threat of a gun is really an abusive situation, right? To have a gun in the home and knowing that the offender can use it against you at any time.
According to figures from the group Everytown for Gun Safety, 70 women a month on average are shot and killed by an intimate partner.
The statistics say that it's 500 times more likely for you to be murdered in a domestic violence situation where there's a firearm. 70% of victims murdered in 2022 were killed by a firearm in a domestic violence incident.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
Federal food regulators issue a warning to one of the nation's biggest maker of baked goods over ingredients that are not in their products. Correspondent Ben Thomas has details.
The Food and Drug Administration has told Bimbo bakeries to stop using labels that say its products contain potentially dangerous allergens when they don't. Bimbo is the company behind major baked goods brands such as Sara Lee, Thomas's, Ora Wheat, Entenmann's, and Ballpark Buns and Rolls. FDA inspectors found the company lists ingredients such as sesame and tree nuts when they are not actually in the foods. The FDA says in the first place, food labels must be truthful, and they also say labeling is not a substitute for preventing cross-contamination in factories. Bimbo began listing allergens such as sesame as a precaution and says it's working with the FDA to resolve the issue. It has until July 8th. I'm Ben Thomas.
The U.S. Treasury Department has instituted a ban on a Russian antivirus and cybersecurity software company, all without citing any specific violations. Correspondent Chuck Palm explains.
Late last week, the Biden administration slapped sanctions on 12 leaders at A.O. Kaspersky Lab, a Russian multinational cybersecurity and antivirus software provider. Treasury Undersecretary Brian Nelson stated that the actions against the leadership of Kaspersky Labs underscores their commitment to ensure integrity of their cyber domain and to protect citizens against malicious cyber attacks. Kaspersky Labs has denied any ties to any government or any links between the designated officials and Russian military or intelligence authorities. A spokesperson for Kaspersky described the move as unjustified and baseless, saying that it would not affect the company's resilience. These sanctions are coupled with an unprecedented ban on sales, resale, and software updates for Kaspersky products in the United States starting September 29th. Officials say the software poses serious risks and could allow it to steal sensitive information from American computers and install malware or withhold critical updates. Leave your thoughts at the new website, allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Midweek Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball on Tuesday, the Padres got by the Nationals 9-7. Jurickson Profar was front and center, hit by a pitch in the first inning after the two teams had an on-field discussion about Profar's reaction to his walk-off hit the night before. With order restored, Manny Machado stepped up and sent the next pitch out to left for a home run. Then in the sixth inning, Profar added an exclamation point of his own, a grand slam inside the foul pole to right, his second granny this year. Manager Mike Schilt on his potential all-star.
So he brings value in what he does, the grand slam, but he also brings value in, you know what, I'm just going to go out and be a good teammate, and he's going to bring people around him up.
Elsewhere, the Angels over the A's 7-5. Mickey Moniak with his first career grand slam. Mets turned back the Yankees 9-7 in the Subway Series opener. Mark Vientos went deep twice.
We've been swinging the bat pretty good. I feel like we're riding the wave. We're sticking to our plan, our approach. We keep doing this, we'll be dangerous.
Aaron Judge hit a grand slam late. That's his league-leading 29th tater. Dodgers got a leadoff homer from Shohei Ohtani and tripped the White Sox. Ohtani leads the National League with 24 dingers. Guardians outlasted the Orioles. Cleveland gets its 7th straight win. The Orioles have lost 5 in a row. Astros topped the Rockies for their 6th straight win. Blue Jays snapped a 7-game slide with a romp over the Red Sox. Pirates clocked the Reds. Brian Reynolds homered in the first to extend his hitting streak to 22 games. Rays rolled over the Mariners for their 7th win in 9 games. They get back to 500. Diamondbacks nipped the Twins. Giants jabbed the Cubs. Tigers too much for the Phillies. Brewers down the Rangers. And the Marlins shaded the Royals. Cardinals and Braves were rained out. They'll play 2 today. The NBA draft begins tonight. The Atlanta Hawks are on the clock with the number 1 overall pick. A trade yesterday. The Nets sending forward Mikal Bridges to the Knicks for forward Bojan Bogdanovic and 5 first-round draft picks, plus a swap of another pair of first-rounders and a second-round choice. It's the first deal between the two teams since 1983. Bridges is considered an elite 3-and-D player and is coming off the 2 best seasons of his 6-year NBA career. That's Wednesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. New struggles for one of the most celebrated entertainers of all time when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. The son of actress Jenna Rowlands is telling the public his mother is suffering with Alzheimer's disease. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
Mickey, tell me, Mickey, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. Tell me what you want me to be, how you want me to be.
I can be that. I can be anything.
Director Nick Cassavetes tells Entertainment Weekly magazine his 94-year-old mother, Jenna Rowlands, has had Alzheimer's disease for 5 years. He describes her as being in full dementia. In Cassavetes' film The Notebook, Rowlands played a woman with dementia who was an older version of Rachel McAdams' character. Cassavetes says, "We lived it, she acted it, and now it's on us." A representative for Rowlands confirms that Cassavetes speaks for the family. Rowlands is also known for films like A Woman Under the Influence and Gloria. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Talk about not holding your water. A spacewalk by 2 NASA astronauts at the International Space Station ended minutes after it began, after water started squirting out of one of their spacesuits. Astronaut Tracy Dyson said she got what she described as an Arctic blast all over her visor when she switched her spacesuit to battery power. NASA controllers immediately called off the spacewalk. They had been scheduled to spend over 6 hours outside the space station, which will now be rescheduled. Singer Celine Dion's new documentary takes a frank look at her struggles with stiff person syndrome. Kevin Carr reports.
Grammy-winning singer Celine Dion is offering a frank look at her life in the new documentary, I Am Celine Dion. The film dropped Tuesday on Prime Video and features a look at how her life and career has changed since developing stiff person syndrome.
I've been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder, and I wasn't ready to say anything before, but I'm ready now.
Stiff person syndrome is an autoimmune neurological disorder that causes muscle stiffness and spasms. It often goes undiagnosed and can worsen over time, affecting movement, vision, and speech. In one scene of the documentary, Dion suffers a debilitating spasm during a recording session.
So she's going into a seizure. Lift your head for me, if you can. Lift your head. Okay, I'm gonna lift you. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
While she cannot be heard speaking, she makes several noises and communicates with her therapist by squeezing his hand.
Put your fingers in her hand. Squeeze Brian's hand if you can.
Atta girl. Good job, boss.
Good. So she's still with us.
Before Dion was diagnosed, she had turned to prescription drugs like Valium to cope with the symptoms. Earlier this month, she told NBC News that the dose she relied on was potentially life-threatening.
90 milligrams of Valium can kill you. You can't stop breathing. My body got used to it at 20 and 30 and 40 until it went up.
In the end, Dion says she will continue to fight for her ability to perform. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, June 26, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.